American Made is a movie that has a lot of interesting contrasts, and yeah, that sounds a bit like a bad travelogue, but stick with me. It's quite an interesting sort of tension that it has between the need to entertain and the need to tell something that's actually based on a true story. On the one hand, the subject matter is quite serious. US foreign politics in the 1980s around Central America, South America, the Bushes, the Clintons, and on the other hand, it's largely treated as a farce. Then we've got Tom Cruise, the last movie star, but we've got a porkier, fatter, jowlier version who's obviously put on some weight with the role. There's all the usual destruction and misery that movies about narcotics and the narcotics industry can't seem to avoid, versus the comedy factor of being so financially successful that you've literally got nowhere to put all the money you make. The movie does this whole delicate balance between facts and entertainment, and it just about makes it work. American Made is based on a true story. There was a guy called Barry Seal. Did he work for the US government? No one seems to really know. Apparently he wasn't as close to the cartel leaders as portrayed in this movie. He was much less of an attractive guy than Tom Cruise is. He was quite obese. In fact, it's probably Tom Cruise that makes the nasty stuff in this movie palatable and even comedic. Actually, possibly makes the character more sympathetic than he probably should be. For example, when he lands a plane in a suburb and emerges from it in front of some children covered in the Colombian marching powder. So it's a very entertaining movie, and it does this by somehow short-circuiting any moral questions you have about what's happening. The plot is very much a standard rise and fall of the drug lord kind of a thing, but it's done very stylishly. There's a good supporting cast. Sarah Wright as the wife is given just about enough to do, I think. Maybe my favourite performance of the movie was Caleb Landry Jones as the brother-in-law, not based on a real person, a completely invented character, but I love the performance. He just gives off this vibe of being a complete walking disaster from the second he appears on the screen. It's really fun to watch. Domhnall Gleeson's performance as the CIA agent is typical of the farcical nature that the movie is trying to bring across. So there's this kind of veneer of competence hiding this lack of morality and lack of understanding of the situation, which fits perfectly into the rest of the film. The music and the fashion, well, the 80s looks much better than I actually remember it. The sounds are great. The choice of songs gives it a similar vibe to American Hustle. Essentially, this is a one-man show. It's Tom Cruise's movie. And Tom Cruise is actually a good actor. Stuff like Rain Man, Born on the 4th of July. And he puts in a very charismatic performance here as well. And yeah, I did really enjoy this movie, but I feel a bit guilty for enjoying it. I mean, for example, Cruise gets arrested at one point. He's surrounded by law enforcement, by various agencies of the US government, and after a single call to a politician, a later rather famous politician, basically he's allowed to walk free despite his very obvious crimes. Is this someone we actually want to sympathize with? And in a more meta way, should we actually bother making this judgment when we don't actually know how much of this story is true? Compare, for example, Barry Seal in this movie to Barry Seal as he was portrayed briefly in Narcos. I mean, if I had to come down on one side of the fence, Barry Seal doesn't seem like he was a great guy. On the other hand, you've got to give it to the filmmakers. They've made a really entertaining movie with loads of funny stuff, like the Central American freedom fighters who get flown to the US for training and decide they'd rather abscond and be illegal immigrants, or the running motif of the bags of cash just lying around everywhere in the town where Barry Seal and his family live. By the end, there are consequences for Barry Seal's actions. Does that make me feel that it's okay to actually like this film? Again, I think that's the Tom Cruise factor. He's right up until the final scenes positive and optimistic. So I enjoyed this, even if it made me feel a little guilty for enjoying it. Thanks for watching.